going? My name is Eric from Jeromes Dream.
I'm Jeff from Jeromes Dream.
And this is Sisters in Christ Picks. I guess I'll kick off with this one. Came across this fine relic. This is the Jesuit 7-inch. And for those who don't know, this was Nate from Converge's, one of his first bands, from Virginia, I believe. And this is also the first record that I think kind of kicked off things for Jeromes Dream. This was a record that Jeff actually recommended that I buy. We were at our local venue, and he just said, you should buy that, and I did, and it kind of changed things for forever for me. And I have very fond memories of this band, specifically going to a VFW show in Connecticut. It was with Jesuit and Coalesce and a couple others, but those were the two bands that really mattered to me at the time. And yeah, this is a good 7-inch.
Cool. So I pulled out this record by a band called Makara. They were sort of a noisy, chaotic, hardcore, I guess you would call them screamo band. I don't know where they were from. I think they were from the Midwest somewhere.
I think they're from Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, yeah, maybe. Then some of them went on to be in this band called 1919 that we played with way back in probably '99, and they were amazing. So when I came across this, I was like, holy shit, and I just had to pull it out and talk about it. So
yeah, and same with this. This is another very formative record for us. This is the Drift and JONAH split 7-inch. And these guys are still, I think, a mystery to us and probably most people. I think this is one of the more underrated hardcore records of the 90s. And I think they were from Canada, and I just think they were on to something that was just very underappreciated at the time. But this is a record that we really got stuck on, and Jeff and I would always put this on the turntable and just sit in a room and listen to it over and over again. And both sides are pretty fucking brutal and unrelenting and honest and just beyond sick. So if you can find this, or if you live in New Orleans, pick it up here.
for sure. All right, my next record is by a band called DEADGUY. This record, I was listening to this before JD became a band, but it's absolutely nuts. And it was very, as we're doing, formative for me. We're talking about formative records. It's just so chaotic and angry and heavy and dissonant and interesting. It was a lot different. It was on Victory Records. It was a lot different than the other bands that were coming out at that time on the same label. But if you get a chance to listen to this record, you should do it. It's called Fixation on a Coworker.
And the interesting thing about this record and Victory Records, I forgot this was actually on Victory. You know, there's another band, you might have heard of them, called Refused. Their first record was on Victory as well. And it just seemed like a very strange pairing for a band like DEADGUY or even Refused to be on a label like that. But one of my more memorable shows that I went to when I was a kid was DEADGUY, Refused, and Snapcase in New Haven, Connecticut. I think it was 1995. I was a kid, and it was a New Year's Eve show, and I'll never forget it. You know, Refused actually played before DEADGUY and Snapcase, and it fucking blew me away. I was like 15 at the time, and yeah, between Refused, DEADGUY, and Snapcase, that was a crazy show. But anyway, yeah, it's a good record.
Definitely.
I pulled out this classic. This is the Orchid Chaos Is Me LP. These are some very dear friend of ours that we came up with 20 years ago when we were playing shows when we were kids. And at the time, JD and Orchid were on tour together when this record came out on Ebullition. And at the time, it was a really big deal because Ebullition has put out so many amazing records, you know, including Portraits of Past and Torches to Rome and countless others. But this is just kind of cool to see this. This is the repress, I believe. It definitely is. And it just brings back a lot of memories to see a record like this. You know, brings us back 20 years ago when we were playing together as much as we were. And yeah, not much really to say about this. Everyone knows it. So yeah, good times, good memories, good fun, good people, great band, and that's it.
I pulled out this classic. This is Godspeed You Black Emperors, Slow Riot for New Zero Canada EP. We actually listened to this in the van on this tour and on the previous tour that we did earlier this summer, driving through Arizona at night. It's just the perfect soundtrack for that because it's so dark and beautiful and cinematic. Yep. So so I thought that this was a great find here, and it's just such a beautiful record. Very simple, very clean, and then of course when you put it on, it just blows you away. So Godspeed You Black Emperor.
And also like a tidbit about this this label, Constellation Records, that this album is out on. You know, Constellation also put out another band whose LP we didn't find, but Do Makes They Think is another great Constellation Records band, and we kind of pair those guys and Godspeed, and was it Silver Mount Zion on Constellation as well, and then a Silver Mount Zion, which is another great, you know, very orchestral, cinematic record. And again, when this is a record that you were listening to 20 years ago, and then you put it on now, it just brings the memories flooding back, and that's just really cool.
It still stands up too.
So, real quick, this is Combat Wounded Veterans LP, and I don't really have, I mean, this is a great album, but I think more specifically, just thinking about sort of the Southeast hardcore, chaotic hardcore scene, bands like Reversal Man, Combat Wounded Veteran, Palatka, End of the Century Party, Suck, so many others, all the No Idea bands. We just played a few shows with this band called Horsewhip, which is Jeff Howe of Reversal Man and a couple others from Early Grace. And these guys were so important to us when we were kids. And Chris Norris from Reversal and Combat actually did the artwork for the Skull Split record we did with Orchid. So there's like a lot of cross-pollination with different scenes, whether it's Southeast hardcore, New England, or West Coast. And yeah, I just wanted to give these guys a shout because they were really important to us back then and still are today.
All right, my last record. So we're in New Orleans, and I wanted to give a shout out to some New Orleans bands that I liked. And I'm looking at the local section. I pull out MJ Guider, which I really like, and then the Thou, of course. Here we are. And the home, right? But this record is by a band called Belong, and it's called October Language. And I really, really love Belong. I've forced these guys to listen to Belong a couple times in the van. Different record called Common Era. Sounds a little bit different, but I don't really know a lot about Belong. I think they were a band in the aughts maybe. But the two records that they put out are really beautiful. They're similar but different. This one's a little bit more ambient sounding than Common Era. Common Era is a little bit more rock-based, drums and guitar and stuff and vocals. But this is a great record. They have a couple copies of them here, so you should come down and pick up these records. So that's it. So thanks for having us.